He disappeared right after making your heart believe it was real love. But what if that silence is an indifference? What if it's a sign of an inner spiritual battle he's going through? In an age where everything can be explained by logic, we often forget a deeper truth. People don't act solely based on reason. A man pulling away in the middle of love, as irrational as it seems, could be a reflection of something deeper, an inner shift, a collision between ego and soul. Carl Jung once said, "Love awakens both the light and the shadow." When a man falls deeply in love, he doesn't just see you, he comes face to face with the parts of himself he's long forgotten. And sometimes that's too much to handle. So why would a man leave just when real love arrives? Why choose silence instead of words of affection? How can the shadow, what Jung calls the hidden self, take over the emotions of someone who seems so strong? In this video, we're going to dive into the deep psychological patterns behind that mysterious disappearance. But not to blame, rather to understand. Because love isn't just about another person's presence. It's a mirror that reflects your own soul. If you've ever felt abandoned by a man who vanished after moments of deep connection, know that this isn't just your story. It's a reflection of an ancient drive within the human psyche, where archetypes, the anima, and the shadow shape the soul's journey through love. You'll discover why love can awaken primal fears in men, why women often become unconscious projections of the feminine inside them, and most importantly, how to return to yourself without waiting for anyone to save you. In the next part, we'll explore the world of projections and archetypes, where love isn't just a bond between two people, but a dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious. And in that dialogue, whether you're in love or in pain, you might find that the silence is actually the beginning of awakening. Love isn't just about two people. It's a meeting of two inner universes where forgotten images, unspoken memories, and rejected parts of the soul are awakened. And in a man's psyche, the first and most powerful image to rise in a relationship is the Anima, his inner feminine. Carl Jung called this projection the mechanism through which a man doesn't just fall in love with the woman in front of him, but with the unrecognized feminine within himself. When he looks at you, he's not just seeing you. He sees the mother he longed for, the sister he once protected, the lover he dreamed of. All of them merge into one image, you. The anima is the feminine soul that lives within every man, shaped by early experiences with women, especially his mother. If she was gentle but emotionally distant, the anima may become an enchanting but unreachable figure. If she was critical or controlling, the anima might take the shape of a ghost that threatens his freedom. Beautiful or painful, that image stays alive, and in love it gets activated. This leads to a profound paradox. The more he loves, the more afraid he becomes. Not afraid of you, but of the part of himself he's never dared to face. For a man taught that strength means needing no one, and feelings are weakness, falling in love, and touching that soft place inside feels like a crisis. He's not sure if it's love or if he's falling apart. You don't know this. You only see him fall for youth and pull away. One day you're the one, the light. The next you're too emotional, too much, too complicated. Did you change? No. But the image he projected onto you is beginning to crack. Projection is when we unconsciously assign our own inner qualities to someone else. Jung said that early love is always a kind of sacred illusion. A man falls for the image of his anima, not for you. But you are the portal through which he reconnects with her. And that is both a gift and a burden. When you act like a real person, sometimes soft, sometimes scared, you no longer match the dream in his mind. That disappointment isn't about you. It's the breakdown of the fantasy. He's not pulling away because you're too much. He's pulling away because he doesn't know who he's loving anymore. And then the retreat begins. He goes quiet. No more passionate texts, no more dreamy plans. Just silence. Cold, heavy silence. But don't confuse that with indifference. In that darkness, a war is happening between the anima and the ego. The anima isn't just about romance. She's a guide. She invites him into his inner world where he must face the fear of being hurt, the dread of being controlled, the grief of never being truly held. To do that, he needs time. space, a pause without pressure. But for you, that silence is painful. Being left without explanation hurts. It makes you question your worth. But the truth is, you just touched his soul more deeply than anyone else ever has, and he's not ready. If this is happening to you, you're not alone. In our community, thousands of women and men are learning to understand the unconscious patterns of love. Share your story in the comments, not to be judged, but to connect. Because when we speak it out loud, we stop being victims of the dark and become observers of the light within. Comment "I was the mirror" if you've ever felt like someone projected their ideal onto you and then left. Your story could be the light for someone else. So what happens when the projection shatters? When he can no longer pretend you're the perfect image? He has two choices: retreat forever or begin the true path of spiritual growth, what Jung called individuation. In the next part, we'll explore the shadow, the part of a man's psyche he tries to reject, the place where fear, anger, and old wounds live, and why love may be the only force powerful enough to unlock that door. There's a moment of silence that many women never forget, a message left unanswered. Eyes that once held deep longing now avoid contact. A man who once opened his heart suddenly vanishes as if he was never there. Not because he stopped loving, but because love pulled him toward a place he wasn't ready to face his own darkness. Carl Jung called this inner rejected part the shadow. It's everything we were taught we shouldn't be, must hide away or never show. For men, this is often heavier because from an early age, they've been forced to wear a mask, strong and control, emotionless. And when real love comes along, that mask starts to crack. Not every man realizes he has a shadow, but it's therein the fear of dependence, the silent anger, the guardedness around feelings. He might be successful, smart, calm, but when he falls in love, a door inside swings open, exposing all the unmanly parts he's buried his whole life. Common forms of the shadow in men include fear of vulnerability from being hurt by a mother ex or a culture that equates pain with weakness, inability to express emotions because they never learned the language of feelings. Don't cry, man up, these echo inside them. Repressed anger turning into coldness, detachment, or explosive outbursts when emotions overwhelm them. Fear of losing themselves when love becomes too intimate. They feel like they're dissolving, being swallowed up, no longer themselves. Sarah, 32, once dated a man who seemed perfect, warm, thoughtful, deeply present. They talked for hours about books, youth, loneliness, dreams left unlived. One day he whispered, "I've never felt this understood before." Then he vanished. No message, no explanation, not a trace. Sarah thought she did something wrong. But the truth was, she had touched the deepest part of his soul, the place he'd never dared to go. He didn't retreat because he stopped loving. He retreated because he truly loved and was terrified of falling apart. In Jungian psychology, real love isn't just joy. It's a catalyst for individuation, the journey of becoming a whole self. And nothing activates that journey more powerfully than love. When a man loves a woman who connects him to his denied parts, his tenderness, his pain, his feelings, his ego trembles. Silence becomes the ego's way of staying in control. He doesn't know how to stay, so he leaves. Not because he's cold, but because he's never learned how to stay with himself. That's the quiet tragedy of many modern men, taught how to make money, take charge, and win, but not how to love, stay, fall apart, and be reborn. If you're the woman on the other side of that withdrawal, don't believe you're too much, too emotional, or too needy. The truth might be the opposite. You opened a door he wasn't ready to walk through. You did nothing wrong, but you can't heal his shadow for him. That's work only he can do. What you can do is come back to yourself. Feel what you're feeling. Write it down. Talk to someone safe. And most importantly, don't lose yourself just because someone else doesn't know how to hold you. Here we don't blame. We don't chase. We learn to understand. If you've ever been ghosted by a man you know loved, you share in the comments, "I was left in silence and am learning to understand." We're building a community of people who not only want to love, but want to understand why love can be so hard. And you, with your story, may be the torch that lights the path for someone else. So what comes after the darkness? After a man touches his shadow, is there a way through? Maybe love is in the end but a transformation, a test that leads us to the self, the integrated whole version of who we truly are. In the next part, we'll explore this path of transformation where love becomes a mirror for the soul, not to cling, but to set free. When a man pulls away, what often gets overlooked is the deep inner experience of the woman left behind. Few things hurt more than being swallowed by silence. No goodbye, no clear reason, just an echoing emptiness. But within that silence, another voice begins to rise. A call from the deepest place within, the call of the feminine waiting to be awakened. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And for the woman left in the darkness of withdrawal, there lies not just pain, but an invitation to truly see herself. Many women who experience being ghosted or abandoned suddenly are pulled into an emotional storm, blaming themselves, trying to make sense of it, even pleading for him to come back. But the more they cling, the more lost they feel. The truth is that pain doesn't just come from the present, it echoes old wounds. The absence of a father, the first rejection, the long-held belief of not being enough. The man was simply the last one to touch that chain of pain. And it's right at this point that a woman has a chance to begin her own journey. A journey back to herself, no longer seeking answers from him, but turning inward to the place where her true feminine essence lies, waiting to awaken. In Jungian psychology, the feminine isn't just biological gender. It's a sacred energy, receptive, intuitive, deeply feeling. But many modern women, in order to survive, have worn a masculine shell, strong, logical, and control. When love arrives and is suddenly severed, that shell cracks. And what breaks open isn't weakness, it's a piece of the soul. In that moment, a woman faces a choice: lose herself in the pain or step into awakening. Awakened femininity doesn't mean passive suffering. It means powerful, gentle presence. The ability to feel deeply without being consumed. To know that love didn't come to complete you, but to illuminate what still needs healing within you. When a man withdraws, the awakened woman won't ask, "How can I make him come back?" She'll ask herself, "What within me drew me to someone who wasn't ready? What is his silence waking up in me? What fear in me was I hoping he would soothe?" These questions aren't easy. They hurt, but it's through this pain that growth begins. The truth is, he may never return, but you can return to yourself. And that's the deepest kind of love there is. Meet Jasmine, 35, a yoga teacher who once believed she had met her soulmate. He was an artist, sensitive, soulful, loving her like she was the universe. They talked for hours about favorite books, the loneliness of youth, and dreams they hadn't dared live. One day he whispered, "I've never felt this understood," and then he disappeared. No goodbye, no closure. Jasmine was devastated. She spiraled, believing she would never love again. But instead of chasing him, she began her healing. She discovered the inner image of a cold father she had carried for years. She wrote letters she never sent. She meditated. Slowly, she stopped asking, "Why did he leave me?" and started asking, "When did I leave myself?" Today, Jasmine is a different woman, not because someone else loves her better, but because she learned to love herself consciously. If you've ever been left behind, if you felt lost in waiting, this is your invitation. Share your story. Comment with the words awakening through the pain, to connect with other women who are also learning to come home to themselves. We are not alone. And love doesn't end when someone leaves. It begins when you stop and ask, "Who am I?" when there's no one left to cling to. Awakening is just one part of the journey. The path continues. In the next part, we'll explore the self, the integrated soul, where the masculine and feminine move beyond projections and shadows and finally meet, not in fantasy, but in truth. There's a kind of love that doesn't come to be perfect, but to break you open. Not to hold you tight, but to set you free. It's the kind of love that carries the energy of a sacred union, hieros gamos, a place where man and woman don't just meet in the body, but merge at the soul level. But this sacred union cannot happen unless both have walked the path of individuation. Carl Jung once described individuation as an alchemical process. Deep love isn't just about connection, it's about transformation. When both people have faced their own darkness, accepted their vulnerability, they no longer love from lack but from wholeness. The withdrawal, the silence, the heartbreak are all catalysts for a greater journey. Many couples break not because there's no love, but because neither has yet gone deep enough within themselves. Love can only mature when it's built on the foundation of two individuated souls, each refined through inner work. Individuation is not cold independence. It's the return inward, the facing of the shadow, the reconciliation with the idealized image, anima, animus, and finally meeting the self. And only when two people have met themselves can they truly meet each other. In ancient symbolism, Hieros Gamos is the sacred marriage of the god and goddess. It's not an ordinary union, but a merging of opposites, masculine and feminine light, and dark logic and emotion. In Jungian psychology, this sacred union happens within each person, but it can also happen between two people. When a man has made peace with his anima and a woman has recognized her, shadow love is no longer dependency, it becomes a spiritual ritual. They no longer love to complete each other. They love to reflect support and evolve together. Daniel and Lila once broke up after 8 intense months. Daniel disappeared without a word. Lila was heartbroken and entered therapy. 2 years later, they met again, not at a familiar cafe, but at a workshop titled Love in the Shadow. Both had walked their healing paths. When they spoke, there were no expectations, no mind games, just honesty. Daniel no longer needed Lila to feel masculine. Lila no longer needed Daniel to feel lovable. They met again as two free souls ready to love without condition. And this time there was no disappearance, because there was nothing left to run from. In alchemy, Negredo is the black stage, the breaking down of the ego. But beyond that darkness lies albedo, the cleansing, and finally rubidor birth through love. Love isn't easy. It pulls us into the depths and teaches us how to fly. But only when we walk the full path does love become truly magical. Not everyone reaches this stage, but if you're still reading, you're ready. Ready to love not like someone afraid, but like a soul awakening. Have you ever experienced a love that didn't last but transformed you? Share in the comments with the words, "I am transforming through love." This is a space free of judgment, place for souls learning to love deeply and sacredly. You don't need a fairy tale ending, but you do deserve a meaningful journey. And when both have transformed, when the shadows have been seen, when love becomes sacred ritual, the question is no longer, will he come back, but am I living fully in my truth? In the final part, we'll arrive at the heart of it all, presence, and the power of loving without needing to possess. And in the end, after all the silence, the retreating, the unspoken longing, what remains isn't him. It's not an answer. It's you, the one sitting here now listening to your own heart. Love, as Carl Jung once wrote, is the greatest path to transformation. Not because it offers easy happiness, but because it touches the deepest layers of the soul, the places light can't reach, where only a courageous heart dares to go. When someone leaves, you're not being abandoned. You're being invited. Invited into a new space where you learn to see your own darkness without fear. Where you stop asking, what am I not enough of? And begin asking, what is life trying to show me? Here are a few simple practices you can start today. Journal your emotions. Every time you feel abandoned, don't rush to react. Instead, write, what am I feeling right now? When did I first feel this way before? Practice shadow work. Write a letter to your inner shadow, the part of you that feels weak, jealous, or afraid. Listen to it. Dialogue with it. No judgment. Meditate for 10 minutes each day with the question, what part of me is longing to be seen, but I've been ignoring? Don't send the message. Don't chase. Instead, return to the place where you first lost touch with yourself. Through these small steps, you don't just heal, you come home. If you've ever experienced a love that made you wake up through tears, leave a comment below with the words, I am coming home to myself. This isn't just a video, it's a sacred space where with those learning to love with awareness are building something real and deep. Tell me what part of this video resonated with you the most. How did it feel to be left in silence? Leave a few words in the comments. You never know, your truth might be the light for someone still sitting in the dark. Subscribe not just to watch more, but to walk this path together. If today's message made you pause, reflect, or feel like something inside you was finally named, then subscribe to this channel. Not for the algorithm, but because we're creating a safe space where love isn't a mind game, but a ritual of transformation. Keep walking this path with us. Click the next video where we'll explore the anima, the inner feminine, in a man's psyche, and how women can begin to recognize the projection they've been carrying. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are awakening. And that journey always begins from within.